Well, we're right now on our international spotlight session on expanding reliance on digital tools, best practices from digital leaders in the time of COVID-19. Well, we have with us Flavio Aggio, the CISO of World Health Organization Switzerland. As the Chief Information Security Officer, Flavio is responsible for information security and cybersecurity at the World Health Organization. Additionally, he represents WHO in key forums focused on information security and cybersecurity. With more than 30 years of experience in specialized chemical manufacturing, semiconductor, consumer product, government, and international organization industries, Flavio brings tremendous technical leadership and operational expertise to WHO. Flavio, thank you so much for joining us on the World Cybersecurity Summit. We absolutely value your presence. Over to you.
Thank you so much for the introduction, and I'm really delighted to participate and be able to share my experience and my views, especially in a very difficult time during the COVID-19 pandemic. So I'd like to share a couple of thoughts and give some advices and share key elements that may help multiple organizations globally. So my intention is really to help to prepare the human OS, our capability to really understand how to deal with digital threats and cybersecurity attacks. So I'd like to share a couple of slides with you. So I'm going to share those slides now. Let's see. Just a little second. Can you see my slide now? Can you see the slide? Yes. Okay, so again, thank you for the opportunity. I'd like to really go through the slides, and it is important for everybody to know what the World Health Organization really does. And somebody saying that they cannot see the slides. Can you?
Flavio, I can see it. Let me just confirm with my tech team as well. Just allow me a moment. I can see it. Just give me a moment.
Okay.
And to all the audience who cannot see, probably you'll just have to refresh your screen. Just allow us a moment. Yes, Rahul confirms from the team. It's good. Thank you.
All right. Sorry. Thank you. So the World Health Organization, it's quite important to understand that we work globally, worldwide, to promote health, to keep the world safe, and to serve the vulnerable. So those are the three elements that we work, and quite important for us. We received a cybersecurity attacks during the COVID-19, and we concluded that only technology to identify, to protect, to detect, respond, and recover are extremely important, but not sufficient. As I mentioned before, the human OS, we invested a lot on technology. We upgraded the multiple OSs, the Mac, Android, iPhone, and the Windows OS, Linux OS, but we don't spend much time in how to upgrade the human OS, our thinking process, and how to really use the internet in a safe way. And it is not only about training, about awareness. So I'm going to describe a little bit the story behind and the importance of really think critically in how we can factor the human thinking process. And why is that? Because we need to make sure that the IT community can openly acknowledge systems vulnerabilities. There's a tendency that the IT community provides a safe and bulletproof system. Sorry to give you the bad news, that doesn't exist. We need to acknowledge systems vulnerabilities and move on from there with a different perspective. And why? Because humans are the weakest and the strongest links in cybersecurity. Why is that? Is because when you think that you're fully protected, that's the moment that attackers take advantage of weaknesses, because the weaknesses will exist. We are humans, coders, users, all will have their weak days, weak perceptions, and they're going to fall for the vulnerability from the software point of view or from the user point of view. And why is the strongest link? Is because when we work with them, we will be better protected. So acknowledge the system vulnerabilities and work with people in the right way. So that's the theme of my presentation. Just to give you the views of what is going on in terms of the world. A good friend of mine, Alexander Urbelis, is an ethical hacker and cyber lawyer. He gave me very important intel that he's capturing. So take a look at the statistics. Internet new website domains registrations with Corona or COVID-19 in the name. He started to collect information in February, and the number is already a very high number, about 1,500 new website registrations. March is insane. It's completely the highest level ever seen on the internet. So then April, it diminished, but it is really high. May diminished again. June, July, and August, it came back to the same level as February, which is very high. So that indicates that APT groups are preparing attacks using Corona and or COVID-19. And by the way, they started already to prep for COVID-20. So the main point of this slide is there are a lot of dormant websites that will really use those sites for phishing, impersonation, and multiple attacks. This is the example of preparedness that are happening, and if you're not aware, you will not be able to protect your organization, work in the right way to protect from attacks. So in that line, we, on the cybersecurity, on the COVID-19 pandemic, we recognize a five-fold increase in cyber attacks. This is five-fold or even higher now. So we recommended 9 important components of an integrated cybersecurity program. So if you don't have an integrated cybersecurity program, you should start working now. We see those 9, as I was saying, we had 9 recommended key important components of an integrated cybersecurity program. And if you don't have a program like that, you should start right away. So attacks will not stop and will only increase in volume and complexity. So it's better to be prepared. The first one is have an identity management. So without an identity management, you'll not be able to really manage the new future way to handle the zero trust strategy. I will talk a little bit about the zero trust strategy, because the idea is to move away from the firewall concept of being inside and outside, and rely on the identity management to really create capabilities to identify who that person is really about, and if it is an attacker, you can take actions. If it is not an attacker, the person can do what it's supposed to be doing. The second is, even for after the identity management is done, you need to have extra care for privileged access. So for the identities that have power over systems, you need to put a second layer of management, which is the privileged access management. The third is multi-factor authentication for all IT services. That is a non-negotiable. And you need to start thinking and implementing the elimination of the distinction of access from internal or external. So the old idea of being inside of the organization and you're protected, that it doesn't exist anymore. So you need to enable multi-factor authentication inside and when you're outside for all IT services. The fourth is password management solutions for IT professionals and users. Any user is using systems outside of your organization and inside of your organization. So if they are not using password management, they're going to repeat passwords. They're going to make it passwords very easy to break. And especially for IT professionals, service accounts, and specific systems password, they need to be very long, because without that, it will be very easy to break. So again, identity management, privilege access management, multi-factor authentication, password management solution. The fifth is an integrated SOC with a system information and event management, vulnerability management, including patch management in a continuous way, threat intelligence, again, integrated with all above, which is the SIM, the vulnerability management, and that threat intelligence should look at for internal threats and external threats. And assuming that attackers can be on your network already, endpoint detection and response for any devices, desktops, laptops, servers, smartphones, tablets, any devices. If you don't have an endpoint detection and response completely interconnected with your SOC, you will be exposed in one point in time. The last one that should be fully integrated is cloud proxy for any device. If you don't have that and completely integrated with your policies, also very, very easy way for attackers to get through layers of protection. So a cloud proxy is essential for you. The sixth element is the domain-based message authentication report and conforms, the DMARC. We didn't have DMARC, when I say we, WHO, didn't have DMARC enabled before May. And we literally had thousands, millions of emails being impersonating WHO, sending messages and people receiving messages as if came from WHO. So email was never designed to have security. DMARC was enabled from the technology point of view, which is very simple. It's just a DNS configuration. And when we enabled in May, we dropped by 70% the number of impersonations. It's amazing. The email impersonation decreased dramatically globally, and also it helps internally and externally the credibility of the email. And we implemented DMARC in 30 days. So not something that it is really bad for prioritization for implementation. The seventh is the email advanced threat protection for safe links and attachment. More than 90% of attacks happen through links and attachment, and it is quite important for you to enable that. When you enable remote, the 8 is the remote access via browser. Don't use clients. They are very easy to really attack. Use browser-based remote access. And the 9 that I recognize as in the list of the key important, the last one, legacy but still necessary VPN and firewall solutions. but start moving into a zero trust strategy. So the idea is to not have a perimeter. There's no safe place inside of any organization. So don't trust in anything without the layers of protection that I described before, with identity management, dual factor authentication, the integrated SOC, and email advanced threat protection. So coming back to the upgrade of the human OS for IT professionals and users, the main message is technology is not enough. The human factor is always in play. So we talked about the 9 key elements, which are related to technology, but they are intrinsically connected with the human factor and how to use it, or how IT should be using technology. So the traditional one, key element of the in how to upgrade the human OS is to implement a decent, complete cybersecurity awareness program that includes training, regular phishing exercises, and briefings. So that's the more traditional one. The second element, very important and few people really implement fully, is the policy. Policy is nice to have a binder or a PDF or a document that shows the policy, but the policy needs to really be used with a governance through the organization to the highest levels of the organization. So without that, you will not be able to effectively change the mindset of the organization, therefore upgrading the human OS. And the last part is what glues everything together. Integrated risk management. When you implement solutions, cybersecurity solutions, you need to implement up to the risk that the organization is willing to take. Normally, organizations don't understand the risk that they are really taking, and therefore, how can they decide what they are willing to take? So cybersecurity professionals need to help the organization to understand the risk, and we need to integrate into the risk management. So we can improve cybersecurity defenses, we can do prevention, protection, and response. How to do that? So I put 7 elements that will help you to do that. I'm not talking about technology, I'm talking about strategy. You need to manage human risk by changing digital behaviors from IT professionals and users. So you need to measure how they are changing behaviors. One example is complex passwords should be very long. How to do that? The behavior of using password management. So when you detect that the organization is using password management, you will know that the behavior changed. That's one example. There are many. Implement and maintain a cybersecurity awareness program. So very important, a comprehensive program with regular phishing exercises. When I say regular, I'm talking about monthly phishing exercises. The third one, build red and blue teams to create the checks and balances within the organization. So the red team tries to find the vulnerabilities and trying to really give elements for the organization to protect against those vulnerabilities, and the blue teams will constantly close those vulnerabilities that the red team finds and new ones that the blue team will find. So that is important. Number 4, recognize and mitigate IT products and processes vulnerabilities. So you need to identify the risk owner and work through that. You will always have vulnerabilities. All the main vendors have software investments, multiple vendors, and you're going to have always vulnerabilities, and you need to have a process to really recognize and mitigate those vulnerabilities. Promote and perform software update continuously. So software always needs to be updated. Enable rapid response, and also recognize and address potential conflicts of interest, IT and security. IT wants to have very good functionality, optimal, low cost, etc., satisfy the business. Cybersecurity wants to make sure that the risk is well understood, accepted, and recognized. And there's a tendency for IT to do implement things that are not really respecting the risk that the organization is willing to take. So towards the end, I would like to share tips to protect you and your family. And because when you do that, you will be able to protect your organization as well. But think about you and your family, and the organization will benefit from. So use long and unique passwords for every service. Passphrase is more than 20 characters. Use a unique password for each system, personal or work. The second is, how can you memorize so many passwords? So again, password management, password vault. So suggestions, LastPass, 1Password, or KeePass XC. And there are many others that are quite good. We give 3 because then a user or an IT professional can select what they really feel that works for them. And the third is always use token. So multi-factor authentication, dual-factor authentication, two-step verification, doesn't matter how they call. And suggestion is to use always a software token. You can go extra step using hardware, but that makes it very difficult in a global organization, especially like WHO, that we need to handle emergencies and dispatch people. The hardware token is a logistic nightmare. So if you implement a software token using your Google or Microsoft Authenticator or others, is good enough. So finally, again, back to the cybersecurity attacks and the COVID-19 pandemic. Cybersecurity technologies are important but not sufficient. Human OS upgrade is required to safely use the internet. And it is not only about training and awareness. It is about the integrated thinking process, more holistic thinking process. And it is about the ways people must behave online, and IT community must openly acknowledge systems vulnerabilities. Again, humans are the weakest and the strongest links in cybersecurity. So I wanted to share this with you because I feel that if we are on the same page and working together to upgrade the human OS, we're going to have a safer environment online. So I finished now. Any questions? And I really apologize for this situation with the slides, but I will share the PDF, and the PDF will be available for you. Over to you.
Yes, thank you so much, Flavio. There are certain questions which are just coming in, and we're going to be shooting them directly to you because I'm sure a lot of them want to hear your answers to that. So ladies and gentlemen, we hope you all are having a great time at the World Cybersecurity Summit, and we have with us none other than Flavio, CISO, World Health Organization, Switzerland. So first question is, Flavio, they're asking is, what are the common types of cyber attacks on WHO? That's one of the first questions which has just come in. Shooting it right there.
Typically phishing. Phishing is the common attack. However, impersonation in general, I will say that is the most difficult one, because impersonation can be domains, could be websites, but also email, because the idea of phishing is attackers are trying to make people to do things that they can start to get access to systems and move laterally. So that's the reason I shared the key elements. I shared all the points and the layers. I think security in depth is the approach that can protect most of organizations. And again, impersonation phishing. That's the answer.
Also, another one is just coming in, Flavio, from the audience. We're so glad that you're firstly here on the World Cybersecurity Summit. Thank you for that, Flavio, once again.
You're welcome.
How do we, Flavio, the question is, how do we train staff to be more safe and vigilant against attacks?
Yeah, I think the best way is to show to them, and we had multiple sessions, boring sessions, just for us to talk, and that is not effective at all. Even if you bring a very good communicator, it doesn't matter. The best way is for people to touch, for people to see. So what we did was in multiple briefings, and after we did that, it was quite effective, is to do a simulation of an attack and what the person is doing and another person is seeing from the attacker perspective, what they can see and what data they can get. So when it's similar to trying to learn how to use the bicycle. You have to do it. You have to really experience, and that's the most effective way. And phishing exercise is similar to that. So we do monthly phishing exercises. So we send 4,000 emails phishing from the cybersecurity team to random 4,000 people. And when the ones that click, we send another one on the second month. And again, once they click for the second time, we send again on the third month. And this is per quarter. And then after 3 times that you fail, you're gonna get a one-to-one meeting with the cybersecurity team. So we can understand how we can help people like them to be able to prevent them to phishing, to click on those phishing. And we did that multiple quarters, and this is part of our regular program. So I recommend any organization to do a similar approach.
Also, there's another question which has come in is, what would be the immediate product that can be introduced to market on post-COVID situation?
Can you repeat the question, please?
It's in the Q&A tab, Flavio. It says that what would be the immediate product that can be introduced to market on post-COVID situation? It's a little unclear, but I believe it's a more generic one. I don't know what sort of product they're looking at.
Yeah, that's. I was thinking, what will be the immediate product that can be introduced to market on post-COVID situation? First of all, I think not specific one product. I think the approach, what I'm trying to describe is the human OS upgrade. The approach that there's no single bullet. We have multiple layers, and you need to prioritize on those layers. So the DMARC is something came to my mind. In my opinion, DMARC must be absolutely required. So if your organization doesn't have DMARC, your email shouldn't be functioning. So these could help a lot because this brings, let's say, more security because it eliminates impersonation, easy impersonation of email addresses. And impersonation will not end. Even after we enable DMARC, people are using Yahoo email, Google email to send messages to the public behaving as they are WHO, but if you look at the front, it's very easy to see that WHO will never send a message from the Yahoo or Gmail. So it's I will not say that a specific product. It's a combination of approaches and products that can help and shouldn't be post COVID-19. It should be now, as I said. Work now, because if we are not working together to fight the attacks, the attackers will win. And that's my message.
Sure. Also, Flavio, respecting your time and your experience, just one final question for you. It is, are countries without GDPR restrictions at more risk, especially in developing countries here in Asia where protection of personal data of citizens is not regulated? That's one of the questions which has come in, and that's the last question, Flavio.
Yeah, I think the concept of regulation is very important, and there are multiple regulations for data protection in multiple countries. As part of WHO International Organization, I will not speak specifically about a region or a country. So, in respect of the neutrality of the UN in that aspect, but the UN passed a data protection principle that it's quite important. I think the concern about data protection is an important one. However, I see data protection at the highest level of the food chain. I see a lot of weaknesses. If you look at the 7-layer ISO structure, I see a lot of issues on the other ones that I described in my speech, in my presentation. And by the way, I sent to your colleague the PDF, so this presentation can be shared with everybody. So the element here is, yes, if you have regulations like that, very important to make it us more secure. However, DMARC is not even a regulation right now in order for email to function, and it should. So there are many other levels of security that will help even more than data protection regulation. Sorry to say, because why the data protection regulation is important? Because we didn't do as a society all the protection needed for the systems and for the people. So the data is the last element. And instead of working on the last, it's similar to the house, right? The data is like the ceiling. You don't start building your house from the ceiling. You start with your foundation, your walls, structurally, internally. And then your house will be quite strong. So I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying make sure you do the other side.
Sure. Flavio, you know, the message is coming, like Tirupati has said, very nice discussion. Thank you. Also, Flavio, I always love taking more time from you. So just one more question,
No
if
problem.
that's okay.
No problem.
Okay. Thank you. So Flavio from Medici Soidbira, Medici asks that how do we know the trusted digital tools that can give us the most benefit and are secure? That's in the Q&A tab.
Let me burst the bubble. There are no secure tools. Let's first burst that bubble. There are tools that have lower risk of security, and you can always. My advice is trust no one. Zero trust approach is the best approach. So you need to have always multiple layers of mitigation. So from the identity, from the password, from the dual factor, and from the vulnerability scanning, from the integration with the SOC, connected with the EDR. So you need to have those multiple layers, and then you can have a selection of a tool based on all those metrics that you can really establish. I will not say there is a secure tool. Of course, there are. Let's talk openly about the tool that we are using. Zoom was in a very hot water before, and they had to do a 90-day work to improve the security. And because of all those controls that red teams and blue teams are doing, the tool is much more secure. You're going to say it is a secure tool? I will say there's no secure tool. There's no system that will have zero vulnerability. That doesn't exist. At least this is my professional view and my recommendation for you to start thinking that way.
Thank you so much, Flavio. Obviously, with such an incredible and rich experience you carry, it's always an absolute pleasure to have you. Thank you for your time, Flavio.
No problem. You're welcome, and sorry about the issue that we have with the presentation, but you have the PDF, and I hope everybody had a very nice time in the conference. I realized that I'm the last one for the day, so that is a pleasure to help and participate and help as much as I can. And let me know if you have any further questions.
Sure. Thank you so much, Flavio, for that. And, whether the presentation worked or not, I personally feel that whatever you say are always the perils of wisdom you bring in. So thank you once again for that.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.